Hello and welcome to another episode of Utopia Planitia. Joining me today are two of our other hosts, Just Steve.
Hey, hey, hey.
It's Just Steve!
Nobody important, just Steve.
And of course, Ed's evil twin. Who we shall call Ed. And if that's not confusing, there you go. Alright, and Ain, last we knew, was stuck in traffic.
Shame on him.
Oh, Ain, I know, right? Anyway, alright. So our build this week comes from Signosis with letters mixed in. Alright, so this is a Chronos build.
Randy KI7S the W joined the server.
Oops, and I forgot to turn off my
sound muted.
And I forgot to turn off all my
Sound muted.
There we go. And change my sound pack to that. Alright, now we won't be interrupted by all kinds of sounds from TeamSpeak. Okay, so Signosis has a Chronos build, and let's get started. So starting by looking at the Starship. And this does start pretty good. I know when we talked about this earlier, somebody was mentioning something about the torpedo.
Yeah, I think the torpedo should go, and he should just throw another coalition disruptor in there.
Yeah, that's generally what most people say is you're going to improve your DPS at least a little bit by going all beams or all cannons and turrets. Good.
And not only that, when you look at the bridge officer skills later on, you'll actually see there's no beam, they're all beam enhancements, there's no torp enhancements, no spread, no high yield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's literally just doing what it does, straight out the tin.
And, and flying a dreadnought, I mean, my personal opinion is a torpedo really has no business. Because it's going to turn slow, it's going to be hard to get around to get that fired off, and if you're trying to do DPS, you're kind of hampering yourself with that.
Yeah,
the only exception to that rule, though, is if you're doing that single map crystalline entity and you are literally just parking nose on.
Yeah, but if you're doing that,
yeah, you can get away with it. But other than that, like Steve says, no point.
Right. So we've taken off the torp, we've put on another coalition disruptor, and then the Iconian set. Obviously, this is what is recommended for DPS. Okay, and then we have the devices. So he's got the red matter capacitor. He's got the subspace field modulator. He's got a weapons battery. And he's got Deuterium Surplus. So not bad on the devices. He might want to, depending on survivability, you might be able to take out the subspace field modulator and put in a energy weapon amplifier, and we'll talk a little more on that later. Any disagreements with that?
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly.
My reason being is that I know what you're going to say about later on with regards to the addition of some DOFs and the bonuses that they give, and also with that actual energy amplifier. But I'm looking at the cooldowns and the shared cooldowns that we've got there. We've got 3 items that are going to have shared cooldown: RMC, the battery, and the amplifier all share a cooldown. And with that certain DOF, you're going to get a better bonus dumped into your powers with the red matter capacitor than you are with the other one. Although the cooldown difference, I can see where you're going.
Yeah.
The red matter is going to be a one-off, whereas the others are going to be on, was it 30-second rotation if you've got the right skills and the right doffs, maybe
Yes.
even more. So, yes and no. I'm just thinking of cooldown time versus the time that's going to be available, and having the three of them there, one of them potentially could be wasted.
Yeah, very true. And you will get more of a power dump into your systems with the RMC, but the red matter capacitor doesn't have um, the straight up bonus to your energy weapons that the energy weapon amplifier is going to have.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. It's a bit of a trade-off, but I see you've also got the ball dumped right across the board.
yeah. And I'm not sure I want to get rid of the weapons battery because that just has a straight up damage bonus, and you're going to get an extra damage bonus from the DOFs we're talking about later on. So, decisions. Do you take off the red matter capacitor? Do you not? I mean, yeah.
I will admit on ships with lesser device slots, I have ditched the red matter in favour of the energy
Mm-hmm.
amplifier with that DOF configuration. Um, this scenario, I'd probably give a couple of tries to see. I'd have to
Okay.
weigh it up.
Yeah, have to test it out. Okay, so we can revisit the device discussion later as we've all had more time to think about it, chew over it. Engineering consoles. So he does have the plasmonic leech, which is always definitely a good thing to have. Bioneural infusion circuits definitely helps with the critical severity. And then he has the tachyokinetic, which will help with his turn rate and a little bit with
Hey,
crit
wake
chance
up.
and crit severity. And then, um, of course the what you call it, the
Timeline
timeline
stabilizer.
stabilizer, which is going to help with firing rate and with a little bit of cooldown. All right, anybody have any problems with those particular consoles?
I'm fine with them.
Yeah, as am I.
I would
Ed?
be interested to see, again, I know that we talked about EPS before, and we know that it's got a moderate amount, but what would happen if we dropped an RCS EPS in there? I know he's going to get a reduced firing rate on
That's
the
right.
weapons, but he's also going to have less drain. And when you work out the beam fire, the accelerated rate, the drain, and put the whole lot in, how does
Well,
obviously we haven't done the math, but if you were to look at the math at each end and to see the overall damage, I just got a feeling that
I'd be wondering if what about replacing it for the tachyokinetic rather than the stabilizer?
I don't know. Epic, that Taco gives a beautiful crit severity boost.
It does.
Um, Again, if he's got the resources to do it, then do it. Try dropping out the timeline. Try dropping out the Tachikinetic.
I mean, yeah, I was pretty much thinking along that line. I'm fine with the timeline stabilizer and the tachyokinetic being
I
there,
am as
but
well.
if I was going to swap something out, it would be the timeline stabilizer for conductive RCS with EPS.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I would probably put in there. But again, I'd want to run numbers on it just to see if I was
Which
losing.
one would be
I've
better?
got a
Yeah.
feeling it's going to be so close. It's going to be difficult to call, and it could be lost in variability of the matches anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. That is a good point. Um, see, that's the thing. More, I'd be leaning towards taking out the tachyokinetic first and trying
Hey,
that so
wake
you
up.
keep the haste first and then possibly trying it the other way if I don't see improvement. But you make a good point. It does give a good boost to crit severity, and it already has the turn rate. So, although the Chronos is it is surprisingly maneuverable to start with, but yeah. Decisions. All right, so
yeah, I mean,
good.
keeping those engineering consoles is fine. Especially, I haven't taken a look at his traits yet, but if he's running Helmsman on it, then the turning really isn't an issue. It's just power transfer running 8 beam arrays.
Yep, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Trial and error.
Where is that EPS mod? There it is. Okay. So I did take out the timeline stabilizer, put in the conductive RCS with EPS and we can put in the notes that this is a trial and error. It'll help with maneuverability. It'll help with EPS, with getting the power back a little quicker. And that he can try switching it out for either the Tachyo or the timeline and see which helps him more. And then of course he does have the embassy consoles, the plasma generating weapon signature nullifiers, because the arrow is coming down in this picture, and he's got 3 of those. And it looks like these are minus threat and EPG. So these are boosting exotic particle generators. Which does he have? He does.
Yeah, he's running a feedback pulse.
Yeah, which I think we're going to be taking off. So I would probably change these.
Before we go any further, the meta out there is at the moment, especially with regards to Shurin, is the feedback pulse. And he's got the high EPG. I would want to stick with it myself, knowing that the current top players in there that are passing the high figures are spamming it almost.
Yes, however, if you're going to use the feedback pulse, you need to be drawing threat,
which
not taking
I'm going to come to in a moment. I want to change out all of those science consoles to amplifiers.
Okay.
And I also want to suggest, because he hasn't got it on his traits, we'll come to it later, but reciprocity is really cheap. There's no reason why you shouldn't have it on a Romulan Riemann KDF by now. 3.5 mil a pop.
Is he a Romulan? What is he? He's
an alien. Yeah,
he's a Federation. No,
I know,
he's
but
not
in most cases, there's no reason why characters can't have it.
Right.
But
so,
if he has access to it.
Well, in this case, he did say he has almost all the ship.
Yeah, so there's and also, if I'm not mistaken, there was also mention that access to a reasonable intake of dilithium daily.
Yes.
So there is the potential there to get the Phantom, just to get the trait. So if we can suggest it, because that would pull the threat and also get the cooldown on the tactical stroke intel skills. And that in itself then would mean more uptime on the fire at will, more availability of the other tac skills. That in itself would also increase DPS.
Alright, so we're going plasma generating weapon signature amplifier. And we're going with, I'll put this one on, we're going with EPG to boost the
Part gen.
the part gen, yes. EPG. There we go. Okay, so clear the 2 slots and copy. There we go. And Bob's your uncle. Now we've got the ones we wish. Okay. And then we've got, of course, the amplifiers, or the vulnerability locators with disruptor from the spire. So that is what we wish to have. And of course we do have, you'll notice, the Terran Task Force beam, which is just, oh my gosh, that is a beast. Great proc on that, which is it can almost double its damage as the health of your target goes down and down and down. So great
Really
beam.
nice when it lands a crit.
Oh yeah, and this is why all the guys at the top end absolutely love it.
The best beam in the game.
Yep. Best beam in the game. Okay.
There's only one better weapon, and that's the crystalline torpedo.
Boo.
Oh, you went there.
That's a great energy weapon.
Yep. Best in game.
Best torp in game. Okay. On to bridge officer skill. Okay. So tactical skills, I don't really have a problem with. He's got 2 copies of fire at will. He's got the only attack pattern he's going to be able to fit in there, and then he has 2 copies of chemosite as another debuff.
I would
So, go ahead.
probably change out one of those chemosites for attack team. Personally.
It'll help with a little bit of survivability, yeah.
Now, I could potentially see where we could have, if he does put enough threat, reciprocity cooling down these attack skills enough. I do agree with Steve. Let's drop out one of those. We've got a temporal slot there. What's the lowest level? We can't get recursive in there, can we? It's too low a level, isn't it?
No, not in here.
Needs
But we
to be-
do
needs to
have
be in a
the.
He can do it
Commander.
on the.
He can do it on the engineering one. That's a commander.
But we could potentially in here have a TAC team and a focused assault, which is great for the end of ISA. Throw focused assault on the end TAC cube, and it's whenever your target is hit or targeted by anyone else on your team, there's some nice little funky buffs go on. So that in itself can increase. It also works on other targets because it's got a nice little cooldown that can bring it in line with the rest of them, especially if you're using reciprocity. That'll free up that tactical officer with 2 slots where we can put in a TAC team with a focused assault.
It does, if we use reciprocity. You do have a point. Okay. Clear selection. Clear. And the good thing about this is you also get to see how to use the STO Academy site. As you're watching this,
or you can go look at Kirby's previous video in Teacher's Corner.
I actually haven't done one.
You need to do one so much.
I should. Ooh. This week's Teacher's Corner. How to use the STO Academy.
Which she will summarise by saying, watch this week's Utopia Planitia. So it's going to be a really short Teacher's Corner.
Oh, Ed. Okay, so we have tactical team and focused assault in the Lieutenant Universal Temporal Op. Okay, and then for the Lieutenant Commander Tactical, we've kept our Chemosite laced weaponry, our attack pattern beta 1, and our fire at will 3. Okay, for the Commander Engineering Temporal Operative, we've got currently a Engineering Team 1, goodness gracious, my brain
Emergency
just
powered
stopped wanting to
weapons.
speak words. Emergency powered weapons 2, emergency powered weapons 3, and a timeline collapse 3. Thoughts? I think I'm having the same thought the rest of you are.
I don't think you are. Mine
I'm
involves
thinking
bacon.
emergency powered weapons 1 in the ensign and an ox to Sif in the lieutenant. Then keeping
Yeah,
the
because he's already got engineering team 1 down on in the ensign
yeah,
engineer.
and then keeping his emergency powered weapons 3, and then making that a recursive shearing 3 in the commander slot.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Clear
My answer
selection.
definitely
Okay.
involved bacon. Um,
Ooh, bacon.
right, no, yeah, I'm thinking along
Ed.
very similar lines as you two, but I would be tempted to actually change the officers. I say drop in 2 Crenham bridge officers here at this point.
Oh.
Bite the bullet and lose the pirate stroke, whatever you've got in there. The reason being is that with both of them there, you can see where I'm going with cooldowns on this. We can get away with 1 emergency power. We can get away with 1 engineering team. The
Very
recursive
true.
shearing. We basically we've really beefed this guy's threat up. We need to beef up his tanking ability. So we do need the engineering team there. We do need the officers there. We need a reverse polarity to put shields if we can squeeze it in some way, shape, or form. Plus also the what we said. So we got to try and look at a way. We keep the recursive shearing 3, which I quite like. At that level, it's going to be an amazing amount of damage. If we have to sacrifice and go to a lower power emergency to power weapons, like maybe at level 1, are we doing it? Are we just to negate the weapons drain, or are we actually seriously looking at the amount of power it's applying to the weapons at this point?
Well, recursive or not recursive. Okay. Emergency powered weapons, we all know, does have the
Yeah.
the power boost or the damage boost
Mm.
to all damage, and then it also has the increased power, which will help with overcapping, which we all know is a thing.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the amount of power that we're going to go over the top, is that going to be equal to the amount of power that it's got float? This is what I'm getting. Is the
Yeah.
amount of power we're supplying into the system, so between number 1 and number 3, really going to be any benefit to him based on the amount of flow back he's actually going to have
That's
from
a
the power
good
transfer
question,
rate?
and I don't
So
think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it might be one where it can be swapped around if he is noticing that there is a power drop there.
Yeah.
But
And then we could put Octasiv 2 in
Yep.
there, and then
Reverse
change
shield
the
polarity.
Octasiv 1 to reverse shield polarity.
And then we've also got the engineering team. So we've got quite a bit of tanking in there with regards to those skills.
Okay.
And I think that then lines us up nicely to jump onto bolstering it with the science. We want the feedback pulse, and I'd shift that up to feedback pulse 2.
But as well.
Yeah.
No, not as well. If necessary, I'd also recommend a Crenham science officer for here for the cooldown.
Okay. And
then I would do a hazard 2 science team 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Mainly for both of them are brilliant cleanses, and one of them is a great little bolster to shields, but a good cleanse. And we all use hazard emitters, especially against the Borg with the plasma burn.
Yes, we do.
Because I'm speaking from the experience here of running. All right, my build is pretty similar to his in regards to the Psi Ultimate. I've got a little bit more in the tax side, so less in the engineering side, and I've had to go all out on, sort of like giving up some of the better engineering things when I've run. I've had to put in the hills in order to survive. But as you guys know, taking a Chrono Imperium destroyer into an ice end doing 79% of the threat when you're not even meant to be a tank, this is how I do it. By just getting the levels of skills right and sacrificing certain officers just to get the improved cooldown on it. As I say, if you're dead, you can't do deeps.
Yes, exactly.
That is unless you guys have got any alternative suggestions on that for.
No, that actually sounds exactly. Sorry. Just a sec. I'm deleting notes so I can put in new notes. So I have to kind of take off my talk button because it's, yeah. Okay, so for our notes, are we putting just one engineering chronum or two engineering chronum?
I'd be tempted to put in the two.
Put in the two.
Yeah, because you'd move them closer to global. I mean, we're not going to need them on a tactical at all because of reciprocity and that increased threat. So you see what we're doing here is we're trying to bring all of the bridge officers down as close to global as possible. We're not going to manage it that well with the Psi. We're only going to get a small reduction on it, but hopefully, I mean, we'll have a look later on. If he's got all hands on deck, that'll throw into the mix as well because that'll bounce off reciprocity.
Well, do remember if we have him running strategist and he's in threatening stance
Yeah,
to
that
draw
adds
the
as
threat,
well.
that's going to cool down as well.
Yeah. So it might
So,
even be a case of where we only need the one engineer if he can run it that way. But again, all of this can be lost in match variability. We needed somebody to come along who's a better tank than you are and pull more threat, and you dip below that magic 23 to 27% for reciprocity to get a decent cooldown. And then that's your pass ruined. As we've seen on many occasions. Dave, you're pulling my threat again.
yep. Okay, so the note says the two engineering buffs are chronum to manage cooldowns as well as the Psi officer. Alright. So that will take care of the cooldowns for the engineering buff and for both engineering buffs and for a good portion of the Psi buff. Alright, so now that we know that, the bridge or the duty officer, what we refer to as DOFs. So we have two ZMOCs. That's fine. That allows us to manage the attack pattern beta and only have the one. Now we have the damage control engineers for the cooldown on the emergency power to weapon. Now I want to point out, and I do want to point out that remember prior to our editing, he did have two emergency power to weapons, which made these DOFs completely useless. Because with
I also throw something in here. Alright, we've just thrown or suggested reciprocity on this build in order to manage the cooldowns. If we put enough threat, we're going to get quite a bit of cooldown on our attack. Why are we running two ZMOCs?
Yes.
We've only got one attack pattern.
That's a good point.
I reckon that with enough threat, we can ditch both of these. All we're getting is the little enhancement from that. It'll be one of those to see how much. If you find that it's not enough, throw one on. but potentially you could ditch both of them in the long run.
Okay.
You'll
Yeah.
see why I want to do this in a minute.
And the really sad part about this is I know how much these cost. So I know our guinea pig is going to be doing face palming when we say this. You know what I mean? As we take these off.
Yes.
But yeah. But
Look
yeah,
on
it
the bright side,
is.
since Infinity they've dropped, so yeah, you're not
They
taking that
have.
much off.
Yeah, but definitely the damage control engineers was important to point out that with two copies, it was really a waste because with two copies, you have 100% uptime already without any damage control engineers. So you don't need that extra cooldown
And
at all.
again,
Yeah.
if we've got the two Krenim bridge officers, I reckon we could get close to 100% uptime with just the one. So it
Yeah.
might be a case of you still don't need them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I would be tempted to take off. Let's suggest maybe one ZMOC as a trial and
Yeah.
one damage as a trial. Um, I like leaving Lyrene on there, 10% against Borg's Blood.
Right.
You just went
So
out and
I'll
bought him,
put
so I know you value him.
yes.
I'm actually thinking pull off one ZMOC and pull off all of the damage control
Yeah,
guys.
I'm
Yeah.
recommending dumping in there 3 feedback pulse offs to give the damage resistance debuff whenever a target
Okay.
is affected
Remind
by
me
feedback
which
pulse.
specialization they are.
Development lab scientist.
That's the
That's what I
one.
thought.
And you can stack 3 of those, and it is a nice little debuff.
I'm thinking only do one.
Really?
Okay.
Well,
Maybe 2?
did you guys only leave one copy of Fire at Will in the tactical skills?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
But that's going to be cooled down by reciprocity later. We'll be adding that. Oh, we did think. Still there, Steve?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, the fire at will we're going to take care of with the reciprocity. So we could stack the resistance debuff to 3, but we were thinking of adding in the battery duty officers.
True. And that is also
Yeah.
a nice little... Yeah.
Two
How
of
many
each.
of them? 2 of each.
Yeah, something in 2 of each. And then we can revisit the discussion of which batteries. Ed knows what I think Ed knows what I'm gonna suggest.
Yeah, I'm very tempted by the energy amplifiers. Very, very tempted.
Yeah, and we were talking about how much power are we putting in? Is it really needed? So I mean that goes back to, does he really need the red matter capacitor?
Well, the reason why for people that are watching why we're humming and hawing is the maintenance engineer that we've slotted. When you pop a battery, he'll give you a 10% damage buff to a weapons battery. He gives you a bonus perception to an auxiliary battery. He gives you an extra shield hardening buff, roughly equates to 10% to a shield battery, and so on, depending on which type of battery you use. And when you use these newer batteries that came out, they haven't been listed on this stuff yet, but what they do is they give you a bonus 2.5% to the effect of the battery, plus, is it a +5 to all power levels?
Yes.
Yep. So you slot 3 Taurus X or 3 Exocomps. A weapons battery instantly gives you a flat 30% Cat 1 damage bonus straight off the bat for the duration lifetime of the battery running. And it does the same for all of the others. So it'll give like an extra bit on the perception. It'll give an extra, and they stack. So when you use the energy amplifier, you get an extra, if you've got 3 of them, an extra 7.5% energy damage, which is at Cat 1.5, so it's slightly better than what you would get versus the other battery. But when it comes to the red matter capacitor, it works a bit differently. the red matter capacitor will give you its flat boost, but then Torosec on top gives you an additional boost on top, and you are literally dumping plus 40 to all subsystems for 20 seconds, and then 25 to all subsystems for another 10 seconds. And I'm just thinking of the amp bonus that gives you if you're not using Supremacy. For those players that aren't, so as those players that that are watching and aren't using Supremacy and don't get amp all the time, and you have a red matter capacitor, those officers are enough to give you that amp bonus.
Yeah. But let's take a little look into his traits, because we did earlier. There it is. He is using Supremacy. He
So
has
let's
the
ditch it.
emergency weapon cycle, so he's not draining as much power. Yeah, so the question then becomes, does he really need the red matter capacitor? And yeah, I mean, my opinion is no, so I would take that off and change it for an energy weapon amplifier, which will boost his damage.
Yeah, the other thing that the red matter capacitor will also do is it repairs any disabled subsystem. So if you are on a map where you are getting into trouble, you can pop it and it'll instantly repair any disabled subsystem. Shield, engine, ox, weapons.
Mm.
Back in the day, it was only available from the collector's edition, and then it was given away by accident. And then they finally gave it away in that Infinity box for dilithium.
Yeah, exactly. And just for note, I don't know if we mentioned it, the Deuterium Surplus is a nice little speed boost. It's basically like a second, oh goodness, evasive maneuvers.
Evasive maneuvers.
Thank you, meds.
That's quite alright, Kirby. All her meds sound like that.
Yep. Yes, they do. Thank you, Ed. Okay. Yeah, so as you can see, that's why we were hemming and hawing, is because we kind of already, we know a lot of this, we're familiar with a lot of this, and so, yeah. So
And
we've
the
got
other
to
thing
ask the
as well
question,
that it
what's
does
most
is
beneficial?
let's just say, right, you're in an ISA. We've got your normal scenario where you've jumped into a pug. It's going to last a while, so you can use all of these abilities if you want to. But when you actually weigh it up, you pop that red matter versus popping the energy amplifier a second time, or maybe that weapons battery. All right, it's going to cost you DPS. But over the course of the match, that little boost to that ox is that little bit more tankiness on your hull, a little bit more resilience to your shield that maybe you might not have popped when you did the match. And you can see where the variability for why we are humming and hawing, because we know that certain things like this can just get lost in an ISA. And you can sit there for hours and hours and hours looking at the figures, and at the end of it, just walk away more bewildered than when you actually went into it.
Yep.
Bit like that last statement, really. I was sort of giving up on it halfway through.
Yeah, we've all sat there and stared at a parse and go, wait, what? Why? Huh? Trying to figure it out. So, don't feel bad if that has happened to you. Alright, skill tree. Skill tree. So he's definitely going Psi Ultimate. I'm looking. Let's see. So 9 points in engine, 10 in tech, and 27 inside.
Yeah.
Not bad. I don't really so far see an issue with anything. He's definitely going a little tankier. He is giving up some crit chance and crit severity to do it.
See, now that's the other thing as well. We've also got points to the scientific readiness, which is why we can probably get away with
With the
having just the
single
one,
chronum,
yeah, with a single chronum. The thing that I would like to see, which is going to be difficult for us to do because there's a lot of alteration, is possibly unlocking the warp core potential and the warp core efficiency at the admiral
Yeah.
level. I would be tempted to possibly knock back tactical readiness and dump that over to unlock the warp core efficiency, and I possibly would lose the third point on scientific readiness to get that. So knock back the Psi Ultimate just the one. You're still going to maintain 2 levels of it. Just
Well, I was gonna say instead of doing that, we can move over and move over the attack readiness and still unlock the main thing. What if we take 1 point from the impulse expertise?
Yeah, we could do that actually. I know there's 3 there.
Yeah, that's not going to
And
be
shift that down.
as much of a difference. Yeah, it's going to be a
Yeah.
very small difference. This will give him
So
a
yeah,
bit
the
of
power
extra
gain
points.
versus
Yeah,
the
the power
difference in
gain.
points is going to be roughly the same almost.
Yeah.
But across the board for the other powers, it's going to be more beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
do
that way he keeps the 27 points in the psi. And and keeps the and just loses the 1 point. So instead of having the 100, he has 85 as a skill bonus, and gets, instead of the 40, he gets 34 in the total speed and turn rate, which is not much of a difference. So yeah,
that works for me.
yeah. Alrighty. So see, not much of a change there in the skill tree. And let's just make sure that we got the unlocks taken care of. The first unlock, sector speed for science, sector speed versus transwarp. That's personal preference. Always make sure to choose the shield capacity for the next one. And then control resistance. I usually go subsystem energy drain because
Throw a spanner in your works there, Kirby, because I like doing this. You know that my main psi, who has no points in engineering whatsoever, put whole capacity in there. Yeah.
Well, I'm doing the psi ones right now because I can't choose all capacity yet. So I'm doing the psi ones, yeah.
Oh yeah. What was the other one that was on that other short
We were down to subsystem energy drain resistance.
Yep.
Versus shield drain resistance, which I say, well, why not go for all of them? You know what I mean? It's you're gonna get the same amount, but this one protects you from all versus only one.
Yeah.
And you don't get any extra by choosing the one. You know what I mean? And then because you can afford it, you're gonna get all 3 for the ultimate. Awesome possum. So for the engineering, we always get because we're using batteries, you're going to get battery expertise and then maximum hull capacity, and that's all we can afford for engineering. And for the TAC, we definitely want to get threat control most of the time because you're using that feedback pulse. You're going to want to run in threatening stance, and that's the only one you can afford for the TAC. Alright, ground. You know what we say. What's our advice?
Top left, bottom right.
Top left, bottom right, carry a hypo. Okay, specialization. So he has temporal operative as his secondary right now.
I'd switch that out, strategist.
Yeah, definitely put that as strategist, set as secondary. And then for primary, he doesn't have one. So the current meta would be temporal operative for primary.
However,
Yes.
temporal operative affects mostly dot stuff, doesn't it?
Damage
And a
over
few other
time,
bits.
yes.
Yeah. How much is he actually using?
He's using the, well, it's not damage over time, but it is exotic. He's using the feedback pulse.
Yep.
But it does, as you'll remember, add the entropic rider,
Mm-hmm.
which is
I've run
pretty
with
huge
both.
and give a few debuffs.
I will admit it is a Cytone. I've run using both temporal operative as primary and intel as primary, and I'm putting in higher figures with intel as a primary with a similar skills and build setup. So it's one of those ones. Give it a try, and I think he'll find he'll
Give it a
actually
try
pull
each
more
way.
doing it that with the intel as the primary. It's just that the way it works with the build. But
Yeah.
again, it could also be the way the ship's being piloted as well that could throw into it. But I'd say give it a try. Definitely strategist is secondary, but intel or temporal operative is primary. But I'd favour intel myself, personal preference for this build.
I could see that. And we'll, so Ed favors Intel. What are your thoughts there, Mr. Steve?
I'd favor Intel as well on it, honestly.
Okay. And I mean, my highest tune is running Intel primary and temporal secondary, so
Same.
I'm not gonna, so I'm not gonna begrudge that.
But there are people that
Yeah.
are running the other way around, so it swings and roundabouts, as they say.
Yeah. Try them out, see what works best for you. Definitely. Alright, traits. Personal traits. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of money here. Just looking at this going, holy Anna. Okay, so he's got right now ablative shell, beam barrage, beam training, fluidic cocoon, helmsman, fleet coordinator, inspirational leader, intense focus, operative, and particle manipulator. So the particle manipulator, he's definitely running for the feedback pulse, help it to crit. Operative's one of the free ones, that's crit chance, crit severity. Intense focus. Last I knew that was still bugged. I'm not sure if that's still the case, yeah.
Still bugged, but it still works.
Yes. But it can turn around and cause you to be more vulnerable. Basically apply the debuff to you instead of your enemies, and then you die.
No, we have found though that some of the players that are better at tanking are able to withstand it.
Okay.
So there is a potential there if this guy can tank enough, and it does happen to him, he should be able to survive it.
Okay. And then inspirational leader, pretty good. It'll give you bonuses to all of your skills. And then of course we have fleet coordinator, free DPS. Helmsman will help with maneuverability and speed, and then we've got fluidic cocoon. That of course is going to help with your outgoing energy damage. Yep.
Yeah.
And then beam training, free DPS for your beams, beam barrage, similar, and ablative shell is extra heal over time.
Right,
so,
now,
go ahead.
One thing that I'm going to throw out here, and I know a lot of people are going to probably lynch me for this, particle manipulator. We're running a build that's got probability manipulation. It's going to lock 30 seconds if he's got the extended, which he has.
This is true.
All of his crits at 50%. So that means for the 30 seconds he's using it, we've got this trait doing nothing.
Yeah.
I'd also like to know what is his base or what is his average crit rate without using probability manipulator. See how much advantage he's actually getting to whether or not we can actually get another trait in there that might help with maybe some more damage or in some way help with survivability. It's one of those ones that, again, as we kept saying, there might be something better out there, or that might be the best
Yeah.
for that slot.
Yeah.
It's the one that if you wanted to change out, you could change out, but it's dependent on what the figures actually show you.
It
Without seeing
is,
a couple
and
of passes, we can't make a decision.
it really does take some finesse to work with particle manipulator and probability manipulation, because basically what you have to do to get them to work together is something like throw out your feedback pulse first, then hit your probability manipulation so that the feedback pulse isn't affected by the probability manipulator by the probability manipulation, so then it gets the higher crit rate over the 50%. So
I think the best
it really
example
takes, yeah.
is when I run a psi in a CCA and I want to get a high crit rate out of a gravity well. There's no point me doing it after I've done probability manipulator. I'm only going to get 50-50. If I do it before I use probability manipulator, I can average. I've seen matches at 85, 90, 92% crit rate out of a grav well because you're doing it at the right time. And then after that, that's when once you've launched that ability, that's when you do it. Your probability manipulation, because you want that first one to get the full advantage of that
Yeah.
enhanced, because that plus 20, well, what is about 25% of your part gem roughly, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that's on top of your base crit we've worked out. So, we're seeing scenarios where some of these exotic abilities are doing 80%, crit chance until you pop the probability manipulator. But you're tying your own hands. So yeah, have a serious look at it, and if you can get the
Yep.
timings right, it'll work. If you can't, put something else in there.
And that's the thing too, because if you're throwing out, I mean, okay, you're going to get the first round is going to be okay because you throw out your feedback pulse right away on the first spawn, right? And then if you hit your probability manipulation, you cap your crit chance at 50%. You go over to the first transformer, you're good. But that lasts for 30 seconds. So then it doesn't take, especially in a high speed run, it doesn't take 30 seconds to finish that.
Now,
That's
can you
done
guys
and
imagine?
dusted in 20-25 seconds at
Imagine this
most.
set of traits on the same ship,
Yeah.
same build, but with a skill set for the tackle on that,
Uh-huh.
and having that feedback pulse every single activation locking at 25% of the part gen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is where
Yeah.
it's limited the build by being the slow ultimate, especially with the attack officer. There would be room to squeeze more out there. But that's a big change and a complete respec. And
It is. So I could see getting
yeah,
rid of the particle manipulation or particle manipulator. I can see that. But then the question is, what would you put in its place?
exactly.
Point blank shot.
What
Yeah.
about self-modulating fire? Or
Point
point
blank
blank
shot over
shot?
self.
Yeah.
I would say point blank shot over self-modulating fire because self-modulating is that 1/45 seconds. And again, we're on the same scenario as the 30-second on the probability manipulator versus particle manipulator difference. You know what I mean. The point blank shot is every shot.
This is true.
I mean, I was almost thinking dropping the particle manipulator and intense focus for point blank shot and anchored.
I could see that. I can
Park and
definitely see.
sparkle.
Park and sparkle, man. That's right. I like me the park and sparkle.
I've never been a fan of Park and
'Cause that's-
Sparkle in ISO.
Well, yeah. Parking
Yeah.
may not be the best if you guys are going to be running reciprocity on this build.
Well, True, but if everything's firing at you, they don't have a whole lot of accuracy.
What are they, a bunch of
So
stormtroopers?
yes, they are. So they tend to miss.
Oh, I see what you did there.
They couldn't hit the broadside of a Chronos. Okay. So, Starship traits, again, a lot of money represented here.
A lot.
So we've got all hands on deck, emergency weapon cycle,
Invincible.
invincibility or invincible, supremacy, and then the trait from the Chronos, which is exotic modulation. I would actually change out the exotic modulation for improved feedback pulse.
Are we doing reciprocity on this?
Oh
I
yeah,
know
that's
that
right. We
again.
got
I'm gonna be lynched for this. Right. Captain Jack,
We're gonna
don't
do
beat me up.
reciprocity.
I know a lot of people do put in improved feedback pulse, but every time I've slotted it on my Imperium with the DOFs that have got the debuff, I seriously can show you every single time a 25% drop in feedback pulse's DPS. And it's not because I'm firing it any
Okay.
differently. You know, whether or not it's something I've done in the setup, I don't know. But I seriously can't see that trait working so well. Other people say that it does, and they get some great figures out of it.
So, well, Steve made a point. We said we were going to put reciprocity in.
And that's why I'm agreeing with you.
So we took off the exotic modulation, put in reciprocity. If we were going to put in the improved feedback pulse, we'd have to take something off. So what would we take off?
Well, if he was an engineer or a science captain, I would take off invincible.
But he's
Since
not.
he's a technical,
Yeah.
you gotta
I'd still
leave it
take
for that
I'd
GDF.
still take it off, and I'd actually rely on the go down fighting personal space trait that gives it to you, no matter what you are, and bite
Yeah,
the
but
bullet.
you can force
so
your
we'd have to put it
GDF
down.
right at the
Yeah.
beginning. So that cube goes, if you're there, you're forcing your GDF, and you're gonna possibly have it twice within one run.
Yep.
You can, and if you have the invincible, you can get the 0% GDF. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, GDF is go down fighting. It's a tactical trait. The lower you can get your hull, the more of a damage boost it gives. So with the invincible trait, you can get your hull down to 0% and get the maximum damage boost out of it. Because then you can get your hull down to 0, heal up right away, and not lose any of that damage boost. So that's why this trait is so popular.
Now, going back to the actual skills, the actual specializations, I can see that if you are using that, then continuity will be good. So maybe in that instance, it would be good to be running temporal.
You'd have to hit you'd have to hit the go down fighting before continuity goes into effect, though.
But
before you get down to 10%.
Yeah, you can see why I'm humming and hawing mentioning that. Because that in itself would be quite good.
So in this case, continuity would actually be bad if you're going for that 0% go down fighting at the beginning.
Yeah, but the difference between 15 and 0% is not that much.
True, it's not.
Don't tell the pure numbers, guys.
It's still a good oh shit skill. Well, so
it is a good oh shit skill, and so for those that don't know, also when we talk about forcing it, we mean snuggling up as close as you can get to that tac cube, or that cube at the beginning, and getting hit with that warp core breach to force your hull down real low or even to 0, and then hitting your go down fighting skill to get your bonus, and then healing up very quick. That's what Steve's referring to when he says forcing it.
You don't really need to hug it. I mean, you don't need to get as close as you penicillin and something to take the rush away in the morning. But yeah, so long as you're you know, at a reasonable distance where you know you're going to take a full whack from that cube when it goes. You know, you could be
Yeah.
unlucky. I have seen players who have done their bit where they've banged, the cube's gone, and they've been caught in that first blast. They've hit the zero because they've been taking a lot of damage. They've popped their heals to heal up, but then the cube has actually detonated. Bang! They've gone back to zero. Invincible is still active, but they've only got like 3 seconds left on it. Their heals are still on cooldown, and then pop, watch them go. So that's one thing just to be careful of, to make sure that, you know, some of those cubes do give you 2 blasts. So just
Yep.
watch out to make sure that you don't heal up between the 2 blasts, because you've just wasted it and you're going to pop.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what we talk about when we mean tactics. Okay. So, are we okay with the traits there? We've
Yes.
imparted a bit of information to our newer
Yeah.
players. Okay. Alright, reputation. We have, of course, precision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing the one for severity.
Advanced targeting systems.
Yeah, advanced targeting systems.
Yeah, it's because we've got in the cooldown for bridge officer abilities there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Which, when you
chrono
consider that's
capacitor.
only 5, what is it, 5%? With what we're gaining
me
on
double
threatening
check.
stance,
It doesn't say.
7.5 or something.
plus also reciprocity, plus also the chrono officers. Let's take that out and put the other trait in for the
Okay,
severity.
that's what I was thinking. Advanced
I like
Yeah,
energy
that's
systems.
the
Yeah,
chrono capacitor array is only a 7.5%.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
We probably
I'm
gained equal
wondering-
to more than that.
See, I'm wondering if the advanced hull penetration, if you might do better with the, oh my goodness.
Tactical advantage.
Words. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Will you stop reading my mind now? No, I'm glad you are, actually. With the tactical advantage. Because that's going to give you a pretty good buff depending on your target's current health. So, what do we think? What do you think?
I quite like the armor pen.
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
stick with the pen because he's not running any weapons that have pen on them.
This
so.
is true.
Exactly.
He's not. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, since pen came out on the reputation, I've had it slotted. I've never taken it off. And I mean, the only time yeah.
No, it's fine. I mean, there's arguments for and against, and I'm overruled. No. I'm not upset, folks. I promise.
I'm always going to recommend that you
Now,
don't take
one
it
thing
off.
I am going to recommend that you do,
do?
because I've made this video, is on the active reputation, unslot it. Just remove that deploy sensor interference platform. Take it outside and burn it.
Yeah.
As someone who wants to full threat now, that's the last thing you want, and you don't want to be popping it accidentally, which I've seen and may have done on the past on my own. Yeah, I'm not going to admit to it, but yeah, if it's there, sometimes, you know, I'm not saying you are, but there are people out there that are, you know, I got something that's activatable, I better press it. Oh damn, yeah.
That wasn't the one I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just take it off of the reputation completely if you're not going to be using it, because it gives you less chance of accidentally popping it.
Yeah. Leave it blank or put in that concussive tachyon emission.
That's what I did. I put in concussive. So
it's
that
better
if
than
he
my
forgets
suggestion
to go in.
I was going to suggest cutting out a little picture of a teddy bear and sticking it over it, but then I realised that when you change shift, it's still going to be stuck to your screen. You can have a teddy bear in space with you. Yeah, let's not do that.
Oh, Ed. Although the teddy bear would be quite cute.
It would.
But,
it would.
Hey, can I put a picture of my dog Oreo?
No, it's not as cute as a teddy bear.
Oh, yes, he is. Oh.
How many teddy bear cuteness parades has Oreo won?
Oreo judges you. Okay.
long as he's not judging the teddy bear parade, I don't mind.
Anyway. So yeah, so we've got the quantum singularity manipulation, we've got anti-time entanglement, we've got the biomolecular shield generator, and we've got the recursive refracting refracting tetryon cascade. Thanks again, meds. Okay. One of the things you might be able to do, that he might be able to do to get a little extra out of that feedback pulse, is right before he hits either the first or second sphere spawn, he can hit that right before he's going to hit the tachyon, or the feedback pulse for it. Hello, words. Okay, right before he hits the feedback pulse, he can hit his quantum singularity manipulation, and that will improve the amount of exotic particle gens that he has by 100.
There's only one
So,
other little problem with that.
what's that?
What does it do to your
Oh, yeah.
stealth?
Yeah.
Yeah, not many
Okay.
things are going to be hitting you when you're invisible
You're
and
right.
cloaked.
You're right. But you can still hit the quantum singularity manipulation right before you hit your anti-time entanglement.
Yes, you can. It works on that
There
one. But the other one that you also
You're
do,
right,
which
Ed.
is
I wasn't
a
thinking.
little trick that you can do that we've discovered, is a lot of people's mistakes when they're moving from the transformer over past the front of the gate over to the other transformer, and they've got all those little spheres there. What do they target?
The gate.
The gate.
Mm-hmm. Target the gate first. You hit your first gate to attract the gate's attention, and then jump your target to the spheres. Then you hit your refracting tetryon cascade on the sphere. It will bounce off more targets because they're normally closer together than that first jump. You'll get a greater hit rate with it than you will do by targeting the gate with it. So hit the gate to get the aggro from the gate first, and then jump target to a sphere. And then just carry on your normal firing cycle. When all the spheres are gone, you'll know because you'll jump target back to the gate. And that's when you then start your move over. And when you look at your refracting tetryon cascade, you'll have more targets. You'll probably have a little bit of a higher number out of it. And that's an observation made from a couple of 100 runs. Mainly where I've hit it at the wrong time. And go, oh, why's that done a bit more? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of that. Any other thoughts, Steve?
Nope.
Before we done and dust it, put it in the can? Alright.
No, we haven't done and dusted yet, and we haven't put it in the can.
We haven't?
No,
Actually,
we haven't.
I do have one last thought on the starship itself.
Yeah, I knew this. This is why I said this.
He needs to gold plate those goddamn weapons. Seriously. Epic that shit out.
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh, you don't need epic," but if you are pushing for numbers, it is a very big difference, and you will notice it.
And epic that warp core too.
Yeah, but no, we are not done and dusted. We are not done and dusted. There was something that I said that I was going to talk about tonight, and yeah, it's about poverty in Africa, and no, it wasn't. It wasn't about poverty in Africa, but it's a good subject that you need to have a look at and sort it out. We've come across a certain DOF mission in game that if you are chasing numbers, you need to be having this DOF mission, and there is no question about it. It is called Basic Starship Pilot Training Exercises, and when you look at it, it says it's going to buff one thing, and when you actually get the reward, it says it's going to buff something else. But when you get the reward box, it says it's going to give you 2.5 to long-range targeting sensors. You pop this box, you get yourself plus 25 to long-range targeting sensors. We are talking a huge DPS increase. On some tunes, 30, 40, 50k. So we've worked out a little technique where if you want, you can, get it quite often. Just keep stacking your personal DOF missions. You don't collect them. And that little mission will cycle around a little bit faster than usual, and you'll be able to actually get more runs at a higher chance of getting higher numbers. I'm going to get myself lynched at some point by the higher DPS crowd for saying that. No doubt I'll be kicked out of the tables from somewhere, and I'll be effigies of me burning on the side of a mountain somewhere in Alabama. But yeah, apart from that, that's all I got to say.
Nice.
Yes, so the TLDR of what Ed said, under the personal duty officer missions, find the one that is basic pilot training. Sorry, basic pilot training gives
Basic
a
Starship pilot
basic
training
starship.
exercises. The
Thank you.
advanced one does not do the same, so don't even bother with it. You can slot it to take it out of the pool and leave it sitting there, but yeah, it's not worth collecting. It gives you a bit
And
more maneuverability.
it gives the bonus when you crit. So you want to make sure you give the best chance of critting the mission because it gives the bonus when you crit.
It's now the time that I tell people that there's an officer, a DOF called Shrosk, SHROSK, that has both of the skills and will give you a 31% chance of critting the mission. Is now the best time to say that?
Yes, it is.
Cool, yeah. Well, I'm not going to tell people because they'll all go out and buy it and the price of them will go through the roof. I got loads of them to sell. Market manipulation.
The Bill Gates of
2007
STO.
repeated. Yeah. I'm going to short the Shrosk market.
No, but seriously, folks, these duty officer missions can make a big difference.
Right, I'm going to tell you how much of a difference this actually makes, seriously. My main science character, which some of you do know, called Tomorrow, was sat on the league tables. I very rarely was able to get above 120, 130k. I discovered this mission and I ran out and I'd done 165k. I never matched it again. I was able to get 120, 123, 124. I started getting this mission on a regular basis, and this character now is over 180k. And this is how these guys, some of these guys are pulling these high figures. They are running this mission. And you look at some of the missions where people are running the solo matches that show you the high DPS, which has been written on the Foundry. They're using those missions to get those high figures on that map. And it can equate to 50k, depending on your build. You know, I reckon a 10k player who had this and had a little bit of skills and a moderate bit of equipment could double, probably treble themselves. They could go from the 10k to the 30k channel quite easily with this skill. There's a challenge for someone out there. I think the interesting one, Kirby, is your budget build that you've got. Your one that you've got that's doing
Yes,
really well. Kirby's literally just got this DOF mission, and if it crits on her budget build, we know what it's doing, and it'd be interesting to see what effect it actually has on something that is easily obtainable by everyone in the game. And if we could double that, we're going to push that tune well over 50k, aren't we?
Yeah, could easily.
Alrighty.
Alright, so I'm adding run and crit the mission. Basic Starship piloting exercises before running the mission. This can be found in your personal tab.
Basic Starship pilot training exercises.
Pilot training, thank you.
You know what they're like for sticking words
See,
together.
I always, yep.
That's how they do it. They just go through a random technical manual, find 4 words, and that's the name of a new device.
Okay, before running the mission, and this can be found in your personal tab.
But no, there are a few other good little missions in there that do work really well in conjunction with it. I mean, if you do want to, do high figures and you want to have high survivability, then you can get some decent, hull hills in there, shield hills, some resistances in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Basically, and I'm gonna show it in ST. When you, oops, I need to log back in.
I mean, the
But
thing is,
basically, go
if
ahead.
you know you're doing a weekend of numbers and you've got them, there's no reason why you can't just save them and collect them on the weekend of doing numbers. But what we do is, because these have a 2-hour cooldown on them, you do your ISA run, or you do your DPSM or your CCA or your Hive Space Elite, whatever you're running the numbers on, and you jump out, you jump up into Earth, in orbit around Earth space. Like, yeah, cooldowns happen, jump onto another toon then, and you wait the 25 minutes. And then you can make that buff last all day. And you can
So,
strategically target the
yes, you
missions you want
can.
to do. So instead of having a 1 hour or 2 hour window, you can spread it out across 6-7 hours.
Okay, so the way you can tell if you are looking at a mission that will give you a benefit is when you click on plan. Notice it will say in green, as you see here, a critical success will grant a buff to your Starship flow capacitor skill. Okay, and then so I have that one, or hazard system overload exercise. A critical success will grant a buff to your Starship hull repair skill. So that would be good for tanks. So if you go down, but if I go to, say, treatment for serious illness, there's no green text about that. So that is not one that will help me. But recalibrate Starship or ship targeting systems will grant me a skill to Starship targeting systems. Okay, so as you can see, there are quite a few
But
here
if you've got the
that
one
will
there for
help
the,
you out.
have you got the one for the basic Starship pilot training exercises to show people, Kirby?
No, I don't. It's not listed here.
Oh, because you could have actually shown them what it says, but what it actually gives, they are
Yes.
completely different. So this is one thing that I do say, have a look at the rewards that do drop. What has happened is these missions are carryovers from when the DOF missions actually launched, and the skills tree has gone through revamp since then. So what they actually buff compared to what the mission actually says are two separate things. So in some cases, as we said, what it says on the actual front in yellow does not equate to the reward it actually gives now in comparison to the skills that are represented. So double check them to make sure, and this is how we found out that this one was doing it. And it is actually listed on Gamepedia as being so we're assuming that it is meant to be like this.
Yep. And Steve pointed out this doesn't directly have to do with the build, but in a way it does, because we are recommending finding this basic piloting, and now I need to go back to it, basic Starship
Pilot
piloting training
exercises.
exercises
Yep.
before running the ISA, so that he does get that boost to his long range targeting sensors, because that is a big thing, because the long range targeting sensors reduces the drop off of the beam weapons, and with that extra 25 you can essentially get that drop off to darn near zero, if not to zero. So yeah, so it may not be direct, but it is a little indirect. But yeah, so that's how you can find out if something buffs or debuffs, or buffs or not, or gives you a buff on your, can give you a buff on your build or not. So yeah, quite interesting there. All right, So that is this week's Utopia Planitia episode. Working on a Chronos build. So, Signosis Chronos build. We will save this and get a. Where is it? There we go. And get a link. So, save. And the link will be included in the description for the show. So it will be there, and we'll be sending that to Signosis as well. Alright, if you would like to submit a build for us to look at, you can send an in-game email to any of the hosts. That will be Krildarn, Ain, Just Steve, or myself. All of our at handles will appear at the end once I'm finished talking. Or you can send us a email through Gmail at utopiaplanitiashow@gmail.com. Anything else to add, guys?
Yeah, Signosis, do us a favour. Before you make any changes to this build, we know you've got a reasonably high pass. It's about 130 something from what I hear. Would you be able to just do us a couple of passes to get an average, make the changes that you can and that you plan on doing, and feeding back to us with some figures as to what we've actually managed to achieve? Because it'd be good to put some actual results out there for people to see, and we can also put maybe some of the passes into drop boxes for people to have a look at and evaluate themselves if they want to.
Yes. Thank you much. Alright, say goodbye, folks.
Goodbye, folks.
Goodbye, folks.
Goodbye. We'll see you next time.